Twitter. If the following information sounds a little familiar, as though you might have read it before and crush it, that's because you did. The strategy for building a brand on Twitter has changed little in 9 years, but most people still haven't learned how to do it correctly and effectively. Twitter is the water cooler of society, that place where everyone goes to get the latest update on whatever news or pop culture event is occurring. The only difference is that while office workers used to have to wait until the day after an event to gather around and share their knowledge and opinions, now that conversation is happening in real time, 24/7. At the time of this recording, Twitter, in this one man's opinion, is in a really tricky spot. It continues to remain the only pure social network, a place where people interact with content, with each other, and with events in the way that doesn't happen anywhere else. Other platforms started out as social networks, to be sure, but eventually became content management systems. There is engagement, but on a far smaller scale than on Twitter. On Twitter, in an instant, you can dive into any conversation about any topic: cooking, outer space, wine, sneakers, politics, skateboards, seltzer. Done wisely, the engagement will compel people to seek out your content elsewhere. Unfortunately, this ease of interaction led Twitter to develop more into a conversation platform than a consumption platform. People talk a lot on Twitter, and the sheer volume is problematic. You're going to consume a lot more of what I say if you hear me speak at a keynote than if you're having a conversation with me. Because when we talk, especially in a group, we'll probably interrupt each other, talk over each other, and get distracted by what else is going on in the room. It's difficult for consumers to absorb everything you want them to when you're talking to them on Twitter. The constant chatter and massive volume has been great for the spread of ideas, which is good for influencers and media outlets. But the chat glut has also made it harder for people to break out as Twitter personalities. Twitter 101. Twitter is disproportionately the place to listen, react, and hijack. Problem is, most people aren't very good listeners. And it's often an especially big challenge for the types of people who want to build personal brands so the world will listen to them. But listening well is the key to engaging well on Twitter. It's by listening that you can find the conversation threads that can lead you to the people passionate about the subject around which you're going to grow your influence. If you're a lawyer who wants to be the next influential sportscaster, it's likely you're going to put out amazing sports-related commentary on YouTube and create a sports podcast. Getting anyone to give you even a passing glance on those platforms, however, will depend almost exclusively on the quality of your content, and even then, a huge number of people just won't see it. But on Twitter, a rising sportscaster could make it her mission to find all the people, every single one of them, talking about Colton Wong, Adam Wainwright, the Cardinals, or the Cardinals' arch rivals, the Chicago Cubs, or Wrigley Field, and reply in some unthreatening, interesting way that creates a connection between her and each sports fan. The next day, she could do the very same thing for people talking about the Jets and all the Jets-related topics. By the way, going off script here, that's New York, not Winnipeg. If she does it well and frequently enough, eventually she can virtually grab these people by the shoulder and point them straight toward her website, YouTube channel, or podcast. The thing is, it will take a shitload of discipline and patience. Let me define discipline. It's backing up your ambitions with your actions. This rookie will need to spend 4, 5, even 6 hours a day on this kind of engagement, often into the pre-dawn hours if she wants to become the next Linda Cohn. If she just wants a little name recognition from her town's bar regulars when they talk about their local sports team, then 20 or 40 minutes a day will be perfectly adequate. Maybe. Now, keeping people's attention and nabbing a subscription or a loyal fan will still rely entirely on the quality of what those consumers find on our rookie sportscaster's website. But the point is that Twitter gives you a chance to both lure and lasso, or jab and right hook, people into your orbit in a way that no other platform does. It's a slow process, and it's an immense amount of work. But if you're willing to do it and your content is special, you should see a payoff. Twitter 201. BizDev. Everyone knows that Twitter is still the #1 place to get my attention because, to this day, I'm still consuming what people are saying about me there more than every other platform combined. That's true for many other people in different fields. Because it was built to be a conversation platform, Twitter is an interesting place to jumpstart business development opportunities or collaborations as you grow your brand. Maybe even the best place. For example, some influencers have hundreds of thousands, even millions of followers on Instagram, but only a few thousand on Twitter. Where do you think they get the most requests for favors or collabs? So even though they probably spend more time on Instagram, you're more likely to have a better chance of getting a response if you DM them on Twitter, where there's less competition for their attention. There are several other advantages to using Twitter as your pillar content. A. It's a complete and trustworthy directory. The platform has been around long enough to have perfected its verification system, which gives it a better search function. You can still spend lots of time guessing whether the Instagram account you're targeting is real or fake. B. Its retweet feature offers a remarkable opportunity to create instant awareness. Let's say you make a YouTube mashup of the rapper Logic's music videos. It's unlikely he's going to see it, even if he gets tagged. Share the mashup on Twitter, however, and the retweets can propel your video to dramatic virality, the kind that even the biggest influencers notice. This kind of word of mouth does not exist on Instagram or Snapchat and is enormously beneficial for content creators. C. Not only that, you can try to spark that word of mouth many more times on Twitter than any other platform. I post 3, maybe 4 times a day on Instagram, but there are days where I could post 40, 50 times on Twitter. The fact that it's as welcoming to the written word as it is to pictures gives content creators the flexibility and the leeway to increase the volume of their storytelling. On Twitter, you are always just one comment away from getting noticed and making a name for yourself. So the more times you get a chance to talk, the better. Remember, though, the best dinner guests are not just great storytellers, but also great listeners. So bring all your smarts, your wit, your cleverness to the party. Keep the conversation going by engaging everyone around you, and watch your influence grow and your opportunities multiply. There's no other platform that gives you this opening to introduce yourself to so many people so often. Don't ignore it. Imagine this. Let's just say you're a 22-year-old college student named Anna, and your dream is to be a sports commentator. I know there are a lot of you out there because I pretty much get an email every month asking me for an internship at ESPN or Bleacher Report, Barstool. You know what that means? That means that even the kids who have spent most of their lives steeped in social media and can hardly remember a time before Twitter are still looking at the world through a very narrow lens and completely missing the big career and personal branding opportunity right in front of them. The wonderful thing about sports is that they're the great equalizer. Any basketball fan can walk up to any group of 20 people they don't know and start debating LeBron versus Jordan within minutes and be part of the mix. For many people, they're the easiest icebreaker. Sports also help people ease into new relationships, offering a way to connect with strangers without having to rely on other social identifiers, like your job, neighborhood, or school. Twitter was built for these kinds of conversations. In fact, there's no better place than Twitter for sports personalities and enthusiasts, because there is literally no limit to the number of kinds of sports conversations in which you could engage. Now think about this. Who do you think has a better chance of getting an internship with ESPN? A, the unknown kid who sends her resume in along with 4,000 other people applying for the same job and has nothing but a prayer that the director of the internship program will bother to look at her portfolio. Or B, the kid who becomes a regular, active presence in the Twitter feeds of all the ESPN personalities and staff who actually rely on internship help. The thing that differentiates sportscasters from one another is their greater or lesser ability to synthesize data. Of course, but also the particular ways they add their 2 or 3 or 9 cents to the event at hand. Whether it's the McGregor versus Mayweather fight, or the Cavs versus the Warriors, or the Wimbledon tennis finals, Twitter is unmatched in its ability to help you amplify your voice and your brand. If you're looking for a job or hoping to make your mark in an industry, consider your activity there as the longest interview of your life, and that's a good thing. There are few feelings more frustrating than leaving an interview wishing you could have said one more thing or showing off or emphasizing the value you could give to the organization. You never have that feeling with Twitter. The forum gives you endless opportunities to prove why you're special or deserve to be respected. So use Twitter to show the world, and in particular, all the important people at various sports outlets who might need interns, your unique perspective and personality. Start by looking at trending topics. In the mobile app, you'll see them listed when you click the search symbol. There is bound to be something sports related there. Click on it and then start expressing your thoughts. You can do this in two ways. You could just start writing. With a 280 character limit, it could take you 11 tweets to say everything you want to, but that's okay. Or you could try recording a video of yourself talking about the topic. The current video time limit on Twitter is 140 seconds. Then posting that. Include the relevant hashtags so that everyone else searching for the information on that topic will see your tweets. Once you've exhausted yourself with the trends, start searching other sports topics and inserting yourself into the conversations happening around them by replying to people's tweets. You show that you're well-rounded by sharing your thoughts all day, every day via text and video on everything from the NHL to MMA, the PGA, and World Taekwondo, which was known as the WTF until June 2017 when it rebranded by dropping the word federation from its name. You reply to famous people. You create content in response to well-known sports writers, personalities, coaches, and athletes. You give yourself every possible opportunity to be discovered as people hit those hashtags and watch those conversations. Done right, this should take 4 to 6 hours. That's one day. On day 2, you do it again for 4 to 6 hours, or as many as you can spare when you're not at work or at school. Remember, 11 minutes is 11 more minutes than 0. But also remember, 12 minutes gives you more at-bats to win than 11. Day 3 is Saturday. Awesome. It's your day off. That means you can spend 10 to 17 hours seeking out sports-related topics and engaging with others interested in them too. Day 4, Sunday, the day of rest. You sleep in an extra hour. So you get only 10 to 16 hours of work, but you make them count. Day 5, Monday, go to work, go to school, tweet during any downtime, such as lunch or walking in between classes, meet your parents for dinner, put the phone away, go home, study for your upcoming test if you must, but tweet until 2 a.m. Do this repeatedly, consistently, constantly, until your thumbs are calloused and your eyes are bleeding, or at least until you feel they should be. One of those tweets, maybe within those 5 days, but probably more likely a year down the line, will be the piece of content that catches the eye of someone at a sports station in Kansas City, or Montreal, or Chicago, who will reach out to you to find out where you're working, or whether you'd be interested in joining their team. Or maybe a news station will contact you and ask you to comment for an article. Guys, news stations really monitor Twitter very closely for material. That is absolutely true. One piece of content in a Twitter environment can be worth 100 on any other platform. It's disproportionately impactful. I want to make something very clear. This book, like 99% of my content, is for people who aren't 100% happy, for those who complain, or those who wish or wonder or think what if. I talk about working 12, 14, or 17 hours a day because that's what it took most of today's success stories and entrepreneurial role models to get to where they are. I don't actually recommend unhealthy lifestyles, like getting too little sleep or isolating yourself from your family. But to all the critics who say entrepreneurs like you and me don't have work-life balance or are shortchanging our health, I ask you this. Has it ever occurred to you that the people you're insisting should get 8 hours of sleep are so unhappy with the 16 hours they're awake that they're willing to invest this many hours to change their lives for the better? What would you rather have? A long night's sleep and 16 hours of misery every day, or a little less sleep but 20 hours of wide-awake joy? I'll pick joy every time, and so will most people who are crushing it.
How I'm crushing it. Jared Polin, Fro Knows Photo. YouTube, Fro Knows Photo. Jared Polin's father had a great way of explaining why he always wanted to be his own boss. I'm not going to be told when I can take a leak. A children's clothing salesman, he was known for his honesty. When Jared decided to go into business for himself, He vowed that honesty would be one of his calling cards too, along with his hair pick. Jared uses a hair pick as a business card because he has a seriously big afro and because he is the founder of Fro Knows Photo, a YouTube channel dedicated to fun and informative videos about everything you'd want to know about photography, from proper lighting techniques to choosing the best gear. He spent his youth working in a camera store, started shooting professionally at the age of 15, and spent 10 years touring with bands. This is not someone who ever had to think hard to identify his passion. For years, he had a beautiful website that featured his best work, but he hadn't seen much business come of it. He was 29 years old. His mother had passed away unexpectedly of cancer, and he'd stayed home to help his father take care of his centenarian grandmother. He was shooting weddings, the usual gigs photographers do to make their living, and earning $20,000, maybe $30,000 a year. At the time, most people were saying that blogs were the way to build an audience, but he didn't consider himself a writer. Yet he'd watch other photographers' YouTube channels and be consistently unimpressed with the information they were putting out. Rather than criticize and tell them what they were doing wrong in their comment sections, he simply decided to do it better. He'd attended an event, bartering his photography skills for a ticket, where he had heard this loud wine salesman talk about how he had used video to grow his family's liquor store. This guy was very real and not trying to sell anything, even though he'd just written a book, and he said, "There's no secret to being successful on the internet. You need to be good at what you do, you need to be passionate about it, and go crush it." That resonated with me. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders because someone else was saying what I was thinking. I had tried some things in the past to make a couple videos and put them out, but for whatever reason, my head wasn't in it. I just wasn't ready, I guess, at the time. And reading the book, something clicked, and I thought, now I'm ready to do this. He did this in the wine world. There's no reason why I can't go out there and exploit it in the photo world. The original purpose of the videos Jared made was to help him book more photo gigs. Instead, people started coming to him for advice about how to buy camera equipment. Previously, he'd always considered anyone else taking pictures as the competition. The last thing he'd considered doing was helping them so they could compete for the jobs he wanted. Now he did a 180 and decided he was going to give all his information away for free. Because you know what? People don't have what I have. There was another motivation as well. His mother's death lay heavily on him. For years, she had asked her son to teach her how to better use a camera, but time had gotten away from them until they didn't have any left. It's one of the biggest regrets of my life. She wanted to learn photography. There's no reason I shouldn't have taken the time to do this. Other people need to benefit from the knowledge that I have so they can be successful and continue on. He maxed out a $15,000 credit card with an 18-month period of 0% financing, which he suspects was meant for his father, but had his name on it. He bought camera equipment and merch, then started putting out content. I found the thing that I could do, and I beat the shit out of it. I locked myself away for 2 years. Every day, day in and day out, I shot a video every single day. Wake up in the morning, come up with an idea, shoot a video, edit it, have lunch, come back, put it out into the world, have dinner, then stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning, replying to comments. I didn't use teleprompters or anything. If I made a mistake, I would make fun of myself and keep going, partly because I didn't know how to edit video. All I knew how to do was put a beginning and an end on it. Sometimes good enough is good enough. Within 6 months, he saw a rise in viewership, 100 views, then 200. All along, he was commenting, answering questions, and interacting with viewers. He made himself available to anyone who wanted to talk. Crush It talks about building your business off of search.twitter.com. I also made it a point to answer every single email that came in. I put up my Skype number so that anybody could call at any hour. If I was sitting there, I would take the call. Then I would get the caller's permission to record the call because there's nothing like free content. They were asking me questions, and if they're asking it, then other people probably have the same one. He made some connections to appear on other people's YouTube channels. As the number of viewers started to climb, so did the number of subscribers. In short order, Nikon and Canon and other photography brands started asking him to review gear. Sometimes they even offered to pay him to do it. I'm very upfront. Someone might pay me, but they can't tell me what to say. If there's going to be something bad about a product, I'm telling you what's bad, whether they're paying me or not. It's all about building credibility. The free model worked so well that in the end, he didn't need to take other people's photography jobs. Now he barters trades with bands and musicians he wants to cover. They give him access, and he gets more content to share with the world. In 7 years, he's put out 2,400 videos, all dedicated to helping other people become better photographers, and received 100 million views on YouTube. At the end of the first 2 years, he generated about $80,000 in revenue. Today, he says he can generate 7 figures. You're not going to be successful unless you put the work in. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're full of shit. It's all of the perseverance and all the hard work you put in the decades leading up to it that make you ready. Are you passionate about what you're doing? Are you good at what you're doing? Then fucking do it. It's one thing to read the book. It's another thing to take action. I've watched Jared carefully for years, and what stands out to me is his inability to complain. Like me, he put out hundreds of hours of content while receiving little traction up front, but that didn't stop him. That's the difference between him and almost everyone else, including most of the people who will read this book. He didn't give up too early. Persistence is everything.